Oh, construction champions, it's your host, Ron Nussbaum, and we're here for another amazing episode of Construction Champions Podcast, where we're burning the damn house down so we can rebuild it. I'm getting rid of this is the last episode I will reference the bulldozer. We're no longer bulldozing it. We are just torching that bitch. Like, that is the bottom line. We're burning it to the ground. Because that's the only way we can get down to that foundation so we can build it back up. I have a fantastic guest. I'm super excited for our conversation today. Mitchell, how's it going today?
Doing well. How are you, Ron?
I am doing fantastic as always. I'm super excited for our conversation. Yeah, I think it's just going to be an amazing episode.
Heck yeah.
So why don't you take a minute, tell all the construction champions a little bit about yourself, and we'll dive into it.
Yeah. Well, I think to start my story, I'd begin back when I was in college. I've always been an entrepreneur. And so when I was in school, I actually was with a couple of friends and we worked on a business where we used to sell goods as a third party on Amazon. So we would literally buy things wholesale, put it into an Amazon warehouse, and then sell it for a markup. So I've always been this entrepreneurial person with the mindset of, okay, how can I build businesses and how can I create something of value? After college, I went into the corporate world for a bit. I was your management consultant for a while, making PowerPoint presentations for other people and sticking them into virtual file drawers. Great work, not always the most rewarding, but I wanted to be someone who was entrepreneurial, right? And helping others and building something from the ground up. And so I didn't know what that was yet. And I wanted to find a software or a tech company where I could be there early on and see that growth. And so I went to a company called ServiceChannel, which was a facility management software platform. Now at ServiceChannel, I worked a lot with trades. So your plumbers, electricians, handymen. And what I got to see was sort of two things with those businesses. One was the people were awesome. I loved working with small business. They were really genuine, down to earth, and really cared about the work that they did. But two, the operations were really challenging. You know, I'd go into offices and I'd see stacks of paper and laptops from 1996, right? And so there wasn't a ton of technology in these businesses, and there wasn't a lot of efficiency. Now, my time at ServiceChannel came to a close as the company got acquired at the late in 2021. And I was trying to figure out, okay, how could I go back and find a way to help businesses in the contractor world? And at that point in time, about early 2022, I got introduced to my co-founder, who I work on my company now with, and his name is Ryan. And Ryan had just gone through this nasty gut renovation of his apartment. You know, everything that could have gone wrong went wrong. And as I got to know Ryan and I got to know his story, I started thinking to myself, okay, why? You know, why did all of this happen? And as Ryan and I started to go back to builders, including his, and try to break down some of the challenges and problems that they were having, we realized that there were kind of two archetypes. There was one, builders who were using pen and paper, maybe some Microsoft Excel or Google Drive, but largely running their businesses through paper and email and text. And then two, there were businesses running their jobs on legacy software, you know, most well known as Builder Trend, but 15 years old, kind of like a 2008 used car where it doesn't work quite right, but maybe it gets you from point A to point B. And as Ryan and I were talking and spending more time with builders, the light bulb went on and we realized, okay, there is a gap in the market. Think of all the small and medium-sized businesses out there in the world, especially in the US, right? And when it comes to residential construction, they need a project management system that works. And so we started Ressio in July of 2022 to make project management simple and easy for your common builder. So we are a solution that provides everything from estimating to selections, scheduling, time tracking, you name it, so that builders can run their jobs all in one system.
Awesome, man. Well, I love it. That's quite the journey to get here to today, where you're on a construction podcast talking about the construction industry.
It's awesome. I mean, look, this space, having been a part of it tangentially with trades and the plumbers, electricians of the world, the people are the best. The community is amazing, and I love just watching how everyone works to support one another, and the industry works to better itself.
It's truly an industry where collaboration will win at the end of the day. We might not
100.
have that reputation. It's one of the reasons I do the podcast, is because we need to get rid of the reputation. We need to get rid of the closed door mentality, and we really need to lean into the collaborative mentality that we just inherently have. Like, let's fix some shit, let's do it together, and let's get it done. So I'm super excited to dive in. I'm going to ask you the $1 million question, and that is, what makes a construction champion?
I love the question, Ron, and I've been thinking about it since I've been listening to your other podcasts. Now, my first thought when I heard champion is I think of sports, right? I played hockey growing up, and I think of all the champions I used to look up to. Steve Yzerman, that's right, old Red Wings hockey player for reference, and I can picture my heroes lifting the Stanley Cup when I thought I wanted to be a hockey player. And what stood out to me then and what I idolized was, right, one, they always embodied a drive to win. And two, in that drive, right, they continued to seek ways to get better year over year, right? They were always trying to improve. And third, nothing was ever an individual effort. So they were always supported by others, whether it was teammates, fans, community, to ensure that everyone else came along for the ride and got better too. So to go back to your question, when I think of construction champion, I'm thinking probably champion in a literal sense from my sports background. But I think that first, right, relating to that drive to win, a construction champion has a drive to serve home buyers, tenants, and really deliver a above and beyond experience to their customers. Two, right, they're always seeking to get better. So they're constantly pushing themselves to grow and improve and challenging themselves each and every day. And then third, right, it's a team effort. So they're continuing to support each other, their employees, their partners, and the broader community as well. And to me, I look at that big picture, and that's someone I look up to and I want to try to become in this space.
I love it. And yeah, shout out to you, because you are from Michigan. I'm from Ohio, but my my late father-in-law was a huge Red Wings fan, because my wife is from Michigan and they grew up. So I'm familiar with the people with Steve Yzerman, who you're talking about from the Red Wings and stuff. And we do look at it a lot of times from that sports analogy, but how you just broke that down, we're having this conversation because we have those what you're talking about doing is we both have, that's what's brought us here. As you said that, I just think about, the team that I've entrusted to be around to continue to get to where I'm at, that continued willingness to learn and just wanting to show up and win. That's what got us all here, and why we're having this conversation today, and just that desire to collaborate. That was one of the things when I rolled this podcast out. I wanted to have a pretty open door policy where this is about collaboration and about just getting people in front of each other, because that's what matters at the end of the day. Every episode, there's something somebody can take away. And I think there's something magical about that. So how do you see guys go out there and live that champion life? What are some of the stuff that separates some of your, we all have, and we work for the construction. I say we work for the construction industry, at least myself now. That's where I'm at. I work for the industry. And, you have superstars. And when I look at them, I I say those are like what, not my ideal customer, but those are my perfect customers. And I know the characteristics that set them apart. I guess why don't you dive into some of that on your example, what makes a champion? Like, how do you see that come out in your customers?
Definitely. So, I'll give a couple examples and I won't name names, but for Ressio, as we built our business, we've been fortunate enough to be surrounded by amazing advisors. And our advisors are typically builders in the space, whether they're a single employee shop or 25 employees. They all embody, right, these same characteristics that you're describing. And one example I can think of recently is I know a builder who was going through a really busy time. It's still kind of crazy in the industry right now. And the day was nuts, right? And at the end of the day, what they managed to do was call up another builder. This was like 5:30 to help them with a software problem. So after a long day, probably 6 a.m. to 5 p.m. of going to battle, doing their job, serving their customers, they decided to spend another 30 minutes to an hour bettering someone else that they were a peer with out of pure choice. Easily could have skipped that phone call. They could have been like, I'm tired. I need a beer, whatever it is. And that extra effort, right, makes that person a champion, and is really, to me, what makes this community pretty special, because that's not a one-time occurrence, right? What I see day in, day out is behavior like that, whether it comes down to helping a company like ours get off the ground, or helping another builder, or going above and beyond for that homeowner who has a late night question on Sunday. And that stuff is pretty special.
Yeah, I think it's stuff that I think, kind of we don't think about it enough, because it just kind of starts to become a natural thing within the construction industry, where just that extra effort a lot of times is what we put in. It's that extra 10 minutes. It's showing up a few minutes early. When I look at the champions out there and what they're doing, like that stuff just kind of starts to become the bar. And I love that, because like we look at it a lot of times as like, here, that's the above and beyond, but really it becomes the bar. And above and beyond that, so when you talk about that extra 30 minutes, like, it doesn't really seem like that much more, because the bar is already so high for guys that are operating at a championship level. When Steve Eisman came in and wanted to hit a few more pucks, or somebody wanted him to hit a few more pucks, and he was already late at the gym, like, it wasn't nothing for him to stay. And I'm just speaking hypothetical. I don't know if he did this or not. So nobody quote me on this, but I'm just saying, if somebody was like, can you spend 30 minutes with me to help me figure this out on my shot, he would have just done it. And it's not that much more of a sacrifice, because his ball was already so high.
100%.
So with that being said, what should guys do? I know you deal with some people, I'm sure we all see them, that aren't the champions. How do we help them get to that caliber where that bar is raising? Or let's say, and let me put this in a better terminology for you, is we have a listener out there listening right now that's like, man, that's my bar. I don't think my bar is high enough. I think my bar is actually low. How do they start to develop some of that champion characteristics that you're talking about?
Yeah, well, I think it starts with the first thing you just described, which is setting your bar, right? What do you want to be? What do you want to get out of this? What do you want to build as a business? Do you want to do this part-time? Do you want to do this full-time? Do you want to get to 5 employees? Do you want to get to $5 million in annual revenue? What are you trying to accomplish? Because champions can look like all the above, depending on what your bar is. Now, I talk about the extra work ethic that I see all the time. I think it's work ethic associated to meet that goal, right? And so once you have that goal in place, coming back to my second point about what it takes or what it makes a construction champion, then you have to constantly push yourself to achieve that goal, right? How can I continuously get better? How can I have a learning mindset? How can I challenge myself to do something that I'm uncomfortable with? And that mental battle day in, day out, because doing that's not easy, right, is honestly most of the challenge oftentimes when it comes down to doing this. I'd say personally as a business owner, right, there are days where I feel like I am doing great, and there are days where I feel like the world is caving in, right? But at the same time, I know, right, my goal and my ultimate vision, right, is to serve builders across America. And so if I keep that in mind, that pushes me to continuously grow and improve. And I think that kind of mindset is really essential to meeting our goals.
It's discipline is what it comes down, at least for me. I mean, that's because days suck. Days are great, but you have to have the discipline to do the same, like to show up. And I when you were saying that, I was thinking for some reason just popped like a couple of guys that I know that are just absolutely killing it popped into my mind. And I was like, the reason they're killing it is because they're not just the extra effort, but because they do understand where they're going. They have that vision, and then they're not just taking the effort to get there. Like they know they could get there in 2 to 3 years, but they're out there kicking ass, and they're like, I'm going to get there in a couple of years. Like I'm going to do the extra effort, and that's what makes them special at what they're doing. And I don't think it's inherently any different personality or anything. I just think it's when you get a fire lit under your ass that you get going, and it's like, man, this is doable because all I have to do is stick to the discipline of it and just keep showing up. And I think that's the hardest part sometimes.
Definitely. And I think there's a couple, ways to frame that. When I was, I think, a little bit younger and I was looking at my role models, there were folks that always said, be passionate about the work that you do, right? Get something that is going to get you out of bed in the morning and get you excited. And there's also folks that told me, hey, maybe it's not so much about being passionate about the work that you do, but the outcome that you create, whether that's a better standard of living for your family, or it's satisfaction in terms of building a business. Whatever it is, whether it's true passion or whether it's truly delivering some sort of outcome, either way, right, to your point, it has to motivate you to get out of bed in the morning, get excited, and go to work and push yourself to be the best that you can be.
Yeah, I mean, it can be hard. And I talk on here a lot about, like, there was a reason why you started the business. Like, don't lose sight of that. And if that's a vacation, or if that's more time with your kids, or if it's a motorcycle or a new truck, a new house, like, don't lose sight of that. Like, it doesn't have to be like, I think we get sometimes we can get so like it's got to be this huge thing that moves something massive. When, I mean, if you're excited about driving a Ferrari and you go get a Ferrari, like, that's okay. Like, that can be the thing if you have something to chase. Like, that's how I look at it. I know there's a lot of people that would call bullshit on that it can't be about a monetary thing or something. But I think people start stuff for all their own reasons, and then they get talked out of those reasons by people that aren't doing anything. And they change it around, and they're like, oh no, I don't want that new Harley. What I really want is to build this great company that does this and that. Well, how do you get the Harley? You build that damn great company. Like,
Yeah,
that, the Harley's the outcome because you did that, and that's fine to look at it that way. And I think we get talked out of that.
totally agree.
So what's the next big stuff for you guys? What do you guys got coming down the pipeline here?
Yeah, we're excited to continue expanding our product and continuing to cover the entire end-to-end construction process for small and medium-sized builders across America. I think the big thing we're looking ahead to is the International Builder Show. This is going to be Ressio's first exhibit at IBS. We're excited to show the world what we've been working on and the power of our solution and how much value it's created for our current customer base. And so I think of that as a kind of hello world moment for our company that we're looking at in 5 months. And we want to come with, a couple of surprises for folks. So they, get to see all the great work that we're doing, but also what our vision for the future is as well.
I love it, man. And it's been absolutely fantastic talking to you today.
Likewise, Ron. Thanks for having me.
Oh, well, thank you for being on here and taking your time to do this. So for all the construction champions out there, if they wanted to connect with you, follow you, learn more about what you got going on, where's the best places for them to do that?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, come talk to me. My door is always open. So go to our website, book a conversation with me. That's ressiosoftware.com, RESSIO software.com. We're also on social media, so you can follow us on Instagram or Facebook or LinkedIn. But for me, I like to make myself as available as possible. So email address, mitchell@ressiosoftware.com. You can contact me anytime.
That's why we get along so well. Like I'm always people, I go on podcasts and they're like, so if somebody wants to talk to somebody at your company, who do they talk to? Well, reach out to me. Like I'm the person. I want to talk to you. Like that's the ebb and flow of business. And when you're involved and you really care about what you're doing as you get something going, it's the only way to do it. So man, I love that. It's been great having you on the show. Once again, thank you.
Thanks, Ron.
All right, construction champions, another episode where we talked about extra effort. Like, let's think about this really quick. You're listening to podcasts, probably not construction podcasts to begin with. And I think most of our traffic come from people that probably started out listening to like Joe Rogan. And then they were like, hey, I'm in the construction industry. There's this dude, Ron, he's got this construction channel. I'll check that out. But let's think about it. So we're listening to this podcast and we hear extra effort and we're like, no, I don't think I want to put, you're already doing it. Like by listening to this podcast, you are putting extra effort in. It's the implementation that has to happen next. And coming from two software guys, we know all about implementation here. And it can be the hardest thing in your entire life. But once you start to get that implementation in there and you start to have the discipline to follow through on that extra effort, no matter what it is, let me challenge you. Do something 5 minutes a day, a little bit above and beyond, just 5 minutes for the next week. Just think about like one thing that you can dedicate 5 minutes to, extra effort. It can't be something that you needed to do anyhow. It can't be something your wife or girlfriend has been telling you need to do. Just find something 5 minutes you can dedicate yourself to and see what that compounding effect is. Give it a week. I always say give it 30 days. Yes. Give it 30 days and see what the real effect is of those 5 minutes. It'll change your life. So construction champions, until next time, be the champion you were meant to be. Hey, construction champions, it's your host, Ron Nussbaum here, and I want to talk to you about how you can automate all of your marketing. We've had so many people on here talk about getting the systems in place. Well, we have partnered with Build 12 and Construction Champions podcast. Les O'Hara, the founder, what really excites me is his 30 years in the industry. And now he's built a system to be able to nurture your leads and continue to utilize that. I personally use the system myself. Build 12 is absolutely amazing. There's a lot of value in there, and it's a way to start getting away from Angie's List and all of that kind of stuff and start actually creating your own leads every day and have a system for them. So go on our website, check out the show notes. Go check out Build 12 and what it can do for the front end of your business today. It's absolutely amazing. I highly recommend going and meeting with Les and his son, Devin, and talking to him about what they built for their own business so the rest of the industry can take benefit from that. Here on Construction Champions, we're all about helping each other out. And what is better than contractors helping contractors? I say nothing. So let's go take this to the next level. Go check out Build 12. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me or Les or his son, Devin. We're here to help. We want to continue to grow the industry.